Praisy Dlamini, warm welcome to Elgin. Well, cool welcome.
Yep.
That's why we've chosen some of your reds. It's so lovely to meet you finally.
Yep.
After seeing your wines flying into all corners of Africa.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Cellar Studio. How are you doing?
I'm cold, but that's why we have these. But I'm good. I think I've said earlier that I'm joining into my new chapter. My birthday yesterday, so yeah.
Happy birthday!
So now we've moved away from the youth league.
Are you in the veterans category now?
So at least now I can be a good chief whip.
Fantastic. I mean, Praisy, it's so wonderful to meet you because I feel like I'm meeting you at an interesting juncture in your journey. Would you have looked forward 5 years ago or 10 years ago and said, this is where I'm going to be, with my own wine brand, which is her wine collection, which I love the phrasing because it shows that this is something you've curated. It's a collection. There's more to come. Tell me a little bit about where you've come from and how did you get here to be seated in the Cellar Studio, sipping on a beautiful pinotage, which is crafted with your own hands.
Well, thank you for having us or having me. When I say us, me and Heroin Collection.
Yeah, the royal we.
Yes. I think if I'm really honest, I wouldn't have said this is what I would do. Purely because I always shy away from having my own thing. I'm the kind of person who's a kumbaya kind of girl who likes to be amongst, the community, amongst things. And I like to be at the back. That's why I think when I said, winemaking could work, because then at least I'm just making the wine and then, someone else goes and sell it and then they do the marketing. I don't have to be in anything. But I think with her wine collection, it turned everything around to something that I didn't think. But then it's still along the lines of what I love. Because when I came to study winemaking, I worked through since 2004, came here from KZN. And
so a Zulu girl arrived. Did you go straight to Elsenburg?
I studied at Elsenburg. Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
And how many other Zulu women were in your class at that point?
To be honest, then I was the only black girl.
Wow.
And I think we were a few English speaking, because obviously then I'm Zulu, but I have to speak English.
Yeah.
But I think at the time that was not the main focus. That I didn't exist. I just needed to get through.
Yeah.
What I had to do, and that was like, I need to pass. No matter what happens, I need to finish and I need to go.
It's a very honest appraisal of all of our university careers, right? Like, what were you there? No, just trying to find myself. No, pass. No. Party and pass.
I wish I had a partying part, like I said, I always say to my friends, I'm worried when I'm going to turn 40 because I don't want to be wild, because it's like I missed my partying years, like I should have partied when I was a student, because in English you make a mistake, people forgive you. Yeah. And like when you're 40, people don't forgive you.
So you're 82 vintage?
I'm 87 vintage.
87 vintage, okay, cool. So you got a few years to go before the four.
Yeah, but then once you tip over that scale, on the other side of 35, it's like it's free flow.
Yeah.
And but I think back then I didn't know that I'll be here, and that's why I always say to people, it's when fate leads you. And I'm a believer in God, and I always say, like, when God paves a path for you, the only thing you have to do as a person is just take a step, and then He will make sure He prepares the next one for you, and then just take a step. And I do believe that when I made a decision to come and study winemaking, when I was in grade 12, when I got a bursary, I didn't know. And my parents are like, what are you going to do? And they were like, okay, because they couldn't say, but you can't do that because you got a bursary. So they have to, acclimatize to it. And also they were glad that I was going to go to tertiary. So because back then in our community, you going to tertiary was a big thing. not everyone had that privilege and not everyone could do that.
Yeah.
So then the fact that is an achievement, number one. So what are you going to do? We'll figure it out.
So doctor, lawyer, engineer? No, winemaker.
Winemaker. So like, okay, cool. Come here and then study at Elsenburg. Shock of my life, literally shock of my life in my system, taking a Devon girl, you're putting them in a farm. But then like you see the vineyards for the first time, you experience different culture, you see different houses, because I'm in all these Dutch houses that are full here. And you're like, okay. But I made it through. And I was very resilient. So now I think. And when I finished, this one I said, God put a step for you. Then there was Cape Makers Guild.
So that's the protege program.
That's a protege program.
But before we get into that, I want to just ask you one thing, because I studied at UCT, and a lot of my friends were at Stellenbosch, and a lot of them were winemakers at Stellenbosch. And often when I visited them, there were grapes in the bath because they were making. So what was the first wine you ever made? Because you had that project, right? Or multiple projects. Tell me about the first wine that you made.
Oh, listen, I didn't know this then. So I think everyone gets to choose. So obviously my fellow students, they already knew what behaves in what way in terms of culture. So all of them were coming from farms, and they came there to study so that they can go back into their family businesses. So then I'm left with Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, right?
Pinot Noir as a first attempt, cheapest.
And then luckily we were paired up. So me and my fellow student then, Johan, he was a very amazing guy. He is still, and it's like, Praisy, we're gonna have to make base wine. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? and because that's what Pinot Noir and Chardonnay does, and I'm like, okay, cool. So we made base wine, and now you're told you're gonna manage that vineyard, obviously from pruning up until it gives you grapes, and I literally. But the nice thing is, we had our lecturer, Mr. Lefty Ellis. He literally understood that this girl is just thrown in a deep end.
Amazing.
And he sort of sent his angels, just help where you can,
Amazing.
just because at the end of the day, it's still our class project.
Yeah.
So as much as it's individual, but then it still has to work.
Yeah.
But then also just, bring it in. So I think that's how, because we were 20 students in the cellar. And so that's how most of us got to understand each other, because on a Saturday you all work together, on weekends to do stuff, and they were helping.
Yeah.
So you plan the receiving and whatever, but the fermentation and everything, everyone chips in and help if it's your day, and I think that's what made it easier for me when I think of it now. But I tell you, I didn't get to make a cab that I love so much because someone else already took it.
So you were making a base wine for bubbly.
Made a base one probably.
Which when you taste is like the least inspiring thing. Obviously you have to wait for that whole process.
There was this whole connotation back then that wine from Elsenburg is the most terrible wine that you can get. Because we were students, it was our playground.
Did you bring it proudly home? Your folks were like, oh, this career is not going to work.
It didn't even arrive at home. It's one of those ones that you just finish with your friends.
Amazing.
You're like, come and drink in my dorm, and then we just sit there and then.
Amazing.
But base wine for MCC, and then we actually aged it because it was supposed to be brut. But I'm not really sure where the brut ended, because obviously I left.
Still sitting there, sorry.
Probably someone popped it.
Yeah, amazing. And then, so you graduated, and then the CWG, so the Cape Winemakers Guild, for those listening that don't know, is a famous wine auction, one of the original wine auctions in South Africa, and is it a portion of those funds that are raised go into the protege program?
Yep.
And that is it's almost like the traditional way of learning, where it's sort of mentorship, internship.
Yep.
And you got in.
By luck, I think, as I said, with this thing that God lays a path for you. And I was not actually supposed to be in the program. I already left and went to Northern Cape to do some production managing in a table grape.
Oh, wow.
Because obviously at the time this is the thing that when you finish, at varsity, it's either you already have a placement,
Yeah.
or you already had a placement before you even start studying.
Or you go to the Northern Cape.
And then I get phoned. I'm like, would you like? I'm like, would you like to what? Literally, I said to those people, I'm sorry, but I have to go, purely because this is what I studied, and if it can take me back there,
Brilliant.
It's amazing. So I remember when Magda, who's a program facilitator, she phoned me and she was so excited, and I couldn't understand the excitement because I'm not getting this. So how do I go back? Because as a student who didn't get any placement, when you finish graduating, you had to find something because you knew that going back home at that time is not an option. Because then it means I wasted all the years, even though my parents
There
didn't
must have been
pay
a stress
anything.
for you, eh? Like,
Yeah, and I think a bit of the shame as well. It's like, when everyone was hyped up that, oh, you went to study in Cape Town, and now you're coming back and you're like sitting at home and looking for a job.
So you were like, that's not an option.
It's not an option. And I had to find something. At least it was in farming. So I'm like, at least it's in farming. And
With grapes, sort of, not wine grapes.
That's right. So
Well
when
done.
I came back to do the program, it was amazing. And I landed
And where were you placed?
Lawrenceford.
That's where I grew up. I grew up on that farm. Amazing.
Oh, it's amazing how everything just comes together. So I went to Lawrenceford with Chris, winemaker, who was an amazing person, and Philip Constanez was the cellar master at the time, and it was this whole ambiance of a team. So I think I just dived in. I was like, this is nice. Because everyone is friendly, everyone is helping, and the winemaker is excited to have you. And you just, just go dive in and do whatever you want to do, and then you part of the team.
Amazing.
And I think that's when, for me, I got to experience the life outside studying, like this is how it goes. And I appreciated that because I remember telling my lecturer at the time, I'm not ready to actually be someone's winemaker. Because, 3 years wouldn't be enough. And also not even 3 years. Because it's only 1 year that you get to work with wine.
One vintage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I'm not ready to actually take on that responsibility of making this wine. Because, obviously when you go to tastings and you get exposed to how the cellars are run, I'm like, for me, it's overwhelming. Because I don't know that, I've got enough to go and be responsible for someone's life savings or investment. And I said, I wish I could still be trained a bit more, but at the same time I need to be paid. So then I think the protege program came it was perfect for me.
Amazing.
And did Lawrenceford with Philip. And obviously the nice thing about the program is that while you are being mentored in that specific cellar, you also get to participate in different functions and tastings within the guild itself.
That's such a way to learn, eh?
And one of the things that I say to people is that doing the gatherings where all the guild members are, now you get to meet then who is who in town.
Incredible. And those tastings, I get jealous. I think David Trafford often posts photos of the lineups.
Yeah.
And it's like, and we sometimes get asked when we travel and train in Africa, how do I learn to pick up tastes and smells?
Yeah.
And then how many wines have you tasted in your life?
Yeah.
And one of the guys who does so well in the courses, he's like, 20.
Yeah.
And that's the limitation.
Yeah.
It's often that experience of tasting and getting to know.
Yeah.
And then you probably tasting 20 every single time you had one of those meetings.
No, that's true. And for me, what I loved about that was not only the program exposed me to mentorship and to other different ways of making wine in a specific cellar, in a specific area, but also it will take you outside South Africa without you actually getting out of South Africa. Like, I love how they theme them. Like there will be one Spain, there will be that country, there will be France. So whenever someone tells you this tastes like Vouvray, it's like, are you staring at me or what? But you will understand because you've gone through that journey, and in your mind you can locate where that is purely because someone have taken you there.
Yeah.
Without you being there.
Yeah.
So only, when you get to travel, that you get to literally stand on the ground and say, wow, now this feels so surreal because, I've learned about this. And so I think with the protege program, for any young person like me at the time, you're not from here in the Western Cape, so you don't understand the life of the vineyard. You don't understand anything about the wine culture. To go through that, it gives you that platform to say there's more to wine than just making the wine, than growing the vineyard or managing the cellar. There's a lot of other things that are, small parts that makes the culture what it is. And I don't think you stop also learning the culture, because as you grow, things evolve, things change, everything change. So you just have to know how to move along.
Did you find, because one of the things, being on a small farm and doing some farming in my spare time, if you ask for help, it's unbelievable, the response. Have you had good experiences in that front, in terms of, because it's not the same where you can pick up the phone from your dad's sort of like contacts of winemaking in KZN, you know what I mean? Whereas like a lot of your colleagues who you studied with, and I can include myself in that, you had that wine network. So did you learn to not feel anything, just to pick up the phone and be like, hey, like, help?
When you have a problem, sometimes how you feel, and if you like it or not, it's not what you think about. It becomes out of the question. And the amazing thing, even now, I learned that belonging into a community of amazing winemakers, is that you ask your next person who's easiest, like I'll ask you, and then you probably know someone that I don't know, and then how it goes, and then you get introduced into people that you never thought that you'll be introduced, or you will know in your life. So I think I will always use my immediate, but I'll tell you that the winemakers that mentored me, that I got to experience during the protege, like Peter Ferreira, for example.
Wow.
That man has been, part of my journey, like either directly or indirectly throughout.
Yeah.
Because, my passion for wine, I always say that, and what I do when the wine is exciting, the dancing part, it's him and Irene Walla, who's at Labrie. Because at Grahambeg, they had this culture, they would just get excited and over base wine. and so I think then they made it easier that you know that there's people there available for you. Whether you use them or not, then it's up to you. And that's why I said, like, right now, if you're a winemaker and you're struggling, then maybe just look at yourself. What am I reaching out? Or also, you need to step out of your comfort zone. That's when you get help. The only thing the person can say is no.
True.
Or
that's a quick answer that you can move on to the next victim,
They'll say no, or they'll say, I don't know. And then if they don't know, then they will refer you to someone else. And also, there's a lot of institutions, like there's university. So you can just call in anonymous and then they'll help you. And so I think right now, or at the time for me, I had that because obviously I was working for a specific cellar or doing mentorship, and it was easy to build relationships around that. And if you move to the next one, you already have that database, and then you carry that database with you. And if you meet someone, say, I'm from here. Oh wow, I work there as well. Then you become friends.
It's so true, and I can't wait for the industry to get together again at Cape Wine to feel that energy. It's the most incredible industry, and so much has changed in the last few years with obviously the struggles, but there's been some amazing developments. And tell me, what have we got in the glass here? So we're drinking your 2020 Pinotage, right?
Yes. You know what?
That is beautiful.
These two wines actually can tell a very long tale. These wines were produced during lockdown, level 5.
Lockdown. There was load shedding, export bans.
Everything.
Okay, let's take us through a journey of April 2020, because it probably would have been March, April, right?
So this was beginning March 2020, and this fruit is actually from Wellington. One of the producers that we had at the time in Wellington. Literally, I can still remember where the block is. It's they are more higher up,
Okay.
but then obviously the block was more on the lower side or the lower slope. And initially, when we said, "I will make a rosé out of this," I said, to him, "These grapes look so cute, so good. I don't think we should make rosé out of this." But then at the time when we made the wine, we didn't know we were gonna have a bottle product, because literally,
really?
like when our business, which is Adama Wines,
Yes.
is bulk wine.
Yeah.
And we make the wine and on sell it.
Yeah.
So that time, even 2020 April or March, I didn't know that we were gonna have her wine collection, and so now I said to him, no. I think this is nice grapes. I think let's just make the wine and see what happens. And he's like, okay, you're the boss. And then we ship it to the cellar, make the wine, and when the importer from Canada phoned us during the whole Black Lives Matter kind of thing, and so now this when we were all locked down, right? And it's like, you know what? We love your story. We'd love to support you, from wherever we are in the world. And I'm like, but we don't have any wine. It's like, we have nothing. I'm like, no, we've got the bulk, but we don't have any bottle product.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, if you want a bottle under our label, sure, but if you want to create your own, by all means, but we are coming on board.
Fantastic.
And remember, these people don't know us. No. They just read the story and then they just loved it.
Yeah.
And I said, I phoned my manager at the time and I said, this is the thing. He thinks probably she's smoking something, or maybe, and he thinks, you know what, this can't be true. And he says, let's ride along. So he rides with the wave and he says, okay, and have several meetings with this lady and then order the bottles, all of that. And I'm like, let me taste. So obviously, because we've got this range of wines, and then now I've got a couple of Pinotage wines in front of me, and this specific one just got me excited. Yeah. My team knows. Someone actually asked me, like, so how do you know? Fruits, yeah. I said, for me, you look how this was fitting was you look at the price point, because we all knew that this is a price point we want to get in. It literally starts there. Where do you want to fit in? So we're like, okay, cool, price point, this is where we're going to fit in. And then now let me look at something that can help us fit into this price point. But also at the same time, I looked at myself, I was like, if there's another girl somewhere who really feels intimidated by wine, what would they like to drink? Or enjoy with friends, and something that you can confidently take to a braai or to someone's house for, nice snacks, or even ladies' night out, or whatever you want to call it. And I said, but then this is what my friends could relate to as well. So when we picked this specific style, it was inspired by, this is not my wine. This is the wine that I want the people around me and other people that are intimidated by drinking wine to actually enjoy. So it's very expressive. It's got an amazing, this distinctive red fruit. Yeah. And most people actually always think Pinotage is like this big blockbuster dark fruit kind of high alcohol,
chunky tannins, yeah.
And this is not that.
It's so elegant. And what's so exciting is to create a brand which is an extension of who you are, your story, your understanding of who you want to be drinking it and enjoying it and appreciating it.
Yeah.
How I mean, it's like goosebumps, right? Like that you can create something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you can, this has traveled back home to KZN.
Yes. No, it has.
Then your family and friends must be super chuffed, yeah.
You know what? May her soul rest in peace. My grandmother, she was one of the people that I always tell people she celebrated anything that I do. Oh. She didn't have to understand it.
We need the goggles in our lives. Yeah.
Like everyone needs a go-go.
Yeah.
Because that go-go will, like, you know what? As long as you get up and go do it again, and then when it gets tough, come, they will like hug you, and then they'll make you this porridge or whatever, and then sit and then you tell them all about it. They don't understand, but then they only want to see you happy.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, the journey should have been that. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. So we need I think there's a definitely a barrel-aged cab in the future called Gogo, hey?
well, we don't want to create certain expectations, but I think this is why it's her one collection.
Yeah.
Purely because when we started the brand, we wanted something that's going to be an umbrella.
Yeah.
Because I believe that, we've seen through the past 2 years what COVID have done in businesses and in our lives and everything, that you have to always allow room for just evolving and extending yourself or expressing yourself in different ways, more than just one. Because I think as we grow as individuals, there's always different layers of who we are, and you need to allow room for that. And I think then for us, we said we don't know what's going to be here, and we don't know, but we know we're starting here for now. But then there could be more stuff that we can put under this collection, because it is her one collection. So who knows? Maybe there might be something.
I just love the phrase, because collection just evokes like an art collection, or a collection of something precious to you, you know, as a whatever it might be. And we're super excited to be part of this journey. And you know, out of great hardship often comes incredible things, and that's literally what we're tasting here. It's incredible. So cheers to you. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, Praisy, let's move on to the next little gem that you've brought along. Do you want to just dip that in there?
Yep.
Okay, I'll do the same. Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to sort of dive into your journey with Bosman and Adama, and you know, we've often worked. You know, some of our pillars of our business have been to work with family-owned wines, and a lot of them also conservation-driven wines. But what really attracted us to your business has been the focus on fair trade and communities, and you know, bringing farming communities into the benefits as well as the responsibilities of owning a farm. So tell me about, how did you meet up with the Bosman family? I mean, it's an amazing joining. I think it's absolutely incredibly perfect. But how did that all happen?
So I think
you were trying to sell them yeast back in your Anchor yeast days, eh?
Yeah, you know,
girls gotta hustle.
I think I have to tell the background story of the yeast thing, and then which then actually leads to my meeting with the Bosman family. So I used to work for this big gigantic company, which I think I've gotten more of my experience from because it was big. So moving from the protege, which is like niche, small estates, small cellars, to something massive, you know, you either swim or you get swallowed by the system. So I think I was doing fine up until you realize that I had a baby boy, and my poor child, I either had to ship him to KZN or I had to ship him back. So I was like, this has to stop. And so I had to make a choice whether I want to stay within the company or I want to, you know, get a job that can allow me to be a mother to this child. And then I stumbled across a friend of mine who worked at Anchor, and she introduced me as a send your CV, you know, and I got employed at Anchor Yeast, which is under the oenology part, where at the time we sold additives to the farms for like either the yeast or tannins or minoproteins, enzymes, anything you want to call it, that can help you sustain the consistency of the vintages throughout. So then, so I did that for nice
on the road, hustling your yeast.
But the nice thing is you manage your time.
Yeah, that's true.
So which then I said this could work, because then I can drop my kid at school, go work, and then go fetch him. So then it was easier, you know. And
someone else is doing the punch down.
Like, here's your yeast, so make a good wine. I'll come taste. And I think it worked. I was happy also there, because I was like, you know what, it's not what I would want to do, but then it makes everyone happy, and I'm also happy. And I got to do some traveling, which is a nice thing that it came with a job, because we're owned by an international company. So you got to be outside South Africa as well, which was great. But then in the midst of me being happy, and I remember someone phoning me that they wanted to do an interview At the time, it was HR from Bosman, and I said, I'm not looking for a job. That's literally how I was, and I knew then there was a trip overseas scheduled, tickets already booked.
This is to the youth conference.
Yes. So I'm like, I'm going. And I knew when I come back as well, 2 weeks, I've got a Portugal trip that I need to go to.
Glorious.
So obviously then they were starting to book tickets for that trip. And I was like, girl, I'm okay. And she's like, okay, even though you're not looking, can we just meet you? We just want to have some coffee. So I'm like, no problem. We can have coffee, because I'm like, I'm now interested to know why you want to talk to me. And so I'm going there thinking it's just a coffee date between me and this lady that I was speaking to, HR. I get there, Beatrice Bosman is sitting there and Kolia is sitting there. And it's in a boardroom.
Oh, then it's a blind date.
Okay. Literally. And I'm like, so I was very fascinated because Kolia, before I worked at Bosman, I used to really look up to her. Like, she's an amazing winemaker.
She's incredible.
Yeah, with all the things that she's done within the Bosman wines, and how she evolved everything else and took it to the level that it is. So I admired Kolia. So I was like excited now to see Kolia, and then I'm also puzzled, why am I here? And so obviously they tell me the story and links to now obviously the reason, which is Adama wines. And so what they've done is Bosman Adama, which is obviously a partnership between the Bosman family and the Adama Porto Trust, which is the farm workers. They've come together, but then now they have unleashed something totally different as well, which they called Adama Wines at the time. And that one was more for empowering and developing young women. And most of the women come from the farming communities, and they work for the Bosman family as well, or Bosman Adama. So now this was now growing so much that they needed someone to just manage that kind
just
of
to have a coffee with business. No?
So all of this is being said that time, and I'm so wow. Like a literally half an hour meeting became 2 hours.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen, but then every day just know I'm good. And they tell me all about this. Now, where I think they got my heart was, as you said, when I saw Petrus, I saw this Afrikaans male, but he respected me. He didn't know who I was, but he addressed me with so much respect. And obviously Kolia, she's an amazing person. So I literally felt at home. And their family-oriented business, and I love the concept of how they speak about their employees. And to them, it's not actually their employees; it's their partners. It's part of our business. So I was like, this is nice. I've never worked in a place where you didn't feel like you're part of everything. This is like that kind of ownership. So I left confused.
Yeah.
And then when I walked in, I was like, I'm just having coffee and I'm gonna leave. But then when I was leaving, I was like, I started thinking about it, and then how I'm gonna do this if I really do this. And then I'm like, but this place is in Wellington. I don't stay in Wellington. And all of that stuff, was unpacked. But just that one meeting, it was just a start of. I didn't figure it out by myself how we were gonna do this. They helped me also to figure it out. And it was never also a matter of we'll jump on the hoops to have you, but it was a matter of this is what we can do, and then we know you can do this. So how about we do this and walk this journey together? And my passion for making wine, or like literally being in a wine business, but also I had this undying passion for people that existed that I didn't know. And now that when I was praying about it, like, God, why do you want to rent on my boat again? And
just send me to the conference.
It took me a long time to make a decision, because I was battling with myself, and I was like, but how am I going to do this? Because I knew what happened last time I was in winemaking or in working for a wine company. What happened? I don't want to send my child away again. So now, will these people allow me to still be a mother and have my kid here? they'll also expect me to just work for them, and now I have to make a plan with my kid. So because then there was a condition. I said, my son has been go through a lot. He's the condition. If this job can fit into that, then we can negotiate.
Amazing.
And I mean, 8 months later, I made a decision.
Wow, that's incredible. And so are you based in Wellington now?
No.
So did you stay?
I stay in Brackenfell.
Okay. So you drive in.
I drive
at least
in.
against the traffic.
At least against the traffic. But I think it's also good. I do believe in diversity. I mean, as much as diversity is literally our model, it's literally who we are. But for me as well, that's why I said you can't expect someone or something to be done, but you not expect you can't do it yourself. So for me, I was like, everyone is in Wellington. We're all gonna have the same outlook of life, and we're gonna have the same way of thinking and doing things. But now, if I still maintain where I am, then it actually helps us, expand our reach a bit further than where we are. So for me, then one of the things I said to Beatrice, let me stay where I am. I've got my foundation there,
set up,
friends and everything is there. So not that I'm staying for friends, but also we can't all be in Wellington. Someone has to be outside Wellington. And then we agreed, that when you want to move to Wellington, you let us know, but stay where you are. And that's the family that the Bosman Adama is. And then the Adama wines is just these amazing females that are literally professional and qualified. And then the Bosman Adama still said, we will have this business. You guys will have a stake in it, but you will run it the way that you see fit, the way that you want to run it. And that's why I said this when this brand came up. He said, okay, it's one of those.
The tiger by the tail, because it's going to just keep evolving and growing. And, I think so many projects, and that's what I love about the Bosman family and also meeting you, because you don't know, you drive out to Wellington for the first time, you don't really know what to expect, right?
Yep.
And then you start meeting the family and you start seeing the passion and the attention to detail.
Yeah.
And also family businesses like that, much like your business now with them, is you don't make short-term decisions. These are things that every decision is for the long term.
Yeah.
It's not a short-term hustle or trade that you're doing.
Yeah.
It's all the long term in mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the business, is it kind of it's like an ongoing protege program that just keeps.
It's actually started as a project program, if you call it, but then soon we realized that this is not a project anymore.
Yeah, no.
This is now a business on its own. That's when we had to literally sit down with the team and say, yes, you're employed by Bosman Adama, but now Adama Wines requires your services. And now we're at a point where we full capacity with the team.
So now you need to seed the talent outside.
That's right. And I mean, we've already have 2 people that started as interns, and now they're actually full on permanent to service the company, because that's how far we've grown. That's in the past 5 years. But I must stress that, starting in a bulk wine business, it's not a very attractive in terms of financial growth. Yeah. Because you really your margins are quite thin.
Yeah. It's not glamorous, going to conferences in Portugal and cutting edge yeast.
Or seeing the different country that you actually have not been in.
Yeah.
And I think, and also with COVID happening, you renegotiate the prices purely because now everyone is trying to survive. So then I think when we birthed the brand, it was also with the thinking like, okay, how do we not only rely on one stream of income?
Yes. Yeah.
How do we, still speaking to diversity, as I've said, is how do we then try to diversify this business so that we can still stand in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
Because the whole goal, the whole mission about Her One Collection is, yes, we started it, but then it's not going to end with us.
No.
I always say to people that when I do things, it's not for me to literally even put my stamp on it. It's that someone else can be able to pick up and take it further along. Be it my kids, be it someone else's kids, be it someone else who comes from wherever. But as long as your vision is that you want to make this a continuous business, because then, as I said, that you have this influx of people coming into the industry. But where do they go?
Yeah.
Is there a place for them to actually eventually say, I found a home? And I think I'm hoping that over the years, that's where we will be, where we'll be able to absorb some of these talented young winemakers that maybe had the similar journey as mine, where you study and you go through a program that teaches you amazing quality winemaking, exposes you to different facets of what wine culture is, and then you say, you know what, I'm belonging to this business that is pro-female, that is, because this thing of elevating women shouldn't end. It shouldn't be, I think, a hype that we find ourselves
in. A box that we tick and move on.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, because I think if people understand the female advantage at the moment, is that when we grew up, our parents were not working. I mean, I'm not sure about your mom, but when I grew up in our family, I grew up with my grandparents. My grandmother was always at home. My grandfather was a builder. And he'll go build, and then he'll come back and man his sugarcane. And then you'll see all the men in the sugarcane land. Not once I've seen a woman in the sugarcane land. And then, but then obviously over time, then they learned. Then also during our time when we were studying, during holidays, we'll go in and plant sugarcane. But then that's when, for me, farming started. And that's why I always say that for me, being here is not really a coincidence, because it's not a taboo, because I grew up in a farming community. But obviously not with grapes.
Yeah, but I mean, like everything from crops to subsistence. I mean, like the KZN farms have got a broad diversity of crops.
Yeah. So I think then for us is that we continue to push that bar or that level, that if we all contribute to this massive economy, imagine what it will do to our country as well, and also where it will put our country towards the rest of the world, where back then it was just only a part of the people that could do that. And I think if we then balance this as young people now, that the younger people coming in can continue with it, why not?
Yeah, it's an incredible mission. And you know what's amazing in life and in business is how quickly you go from seeking and sponging knowledge to actually becoming the person that is now leading, and being the example and paving the way. And it's not just in the viticulture or the winemaking part of the value chain. It's also our big responsibilities on distribution and marketing and education and building those channels out and changing the way it looks. And this is the first year where our business has now got more female employees and also partners than male, and we've never been better. Because the balance of and it's always been a bit of a discussion in our business, where the some of the women in our business on the leadership front, it's changed now, but at the beginning often had all the competence but less confidence. Whereas men
not short of that.
Confidence. Yes, of course I can do that. Meanwhile, no idea. So all the confidence, less of the competence, and those are coming together, and also finding your own style and voice as a woman. I would imagine, because it's not beating your chest and being like more high ego potentially or more aggressive. You got to find your own style. But I mean, your energy is just absolutely infectious, and it comes through in everything you do. Even though I hadn't met you, I literally had that complete image of you from people I've spoken to, and you really are a leader in this industry already, and it's only the beginning.
It's nerve-wracking to hear that. I remember when my lecturer Lofty Ellis saw me speaking publicly doing a presentation for the first time with Anchor Yeast.
At one of the conferences?
Yes. Oh, it was here in South Africa.
I love this conference story.
And he literally stood up and clapped because he could not comprehend the growth. Because he saw this girl who was like so shy and into her shell. And he said to me, Praisy, I cannot believe, he was in tears, I cannot believe how you've grown out of your shell. And I said to him, it was always there, but I didn't know how to get that goal out. And with what you're saying is that, and I'm a firm believer of that, irrespective of, you know, your gender, if you give someone a platform to live out their best and not fit them into this is what it is, what it should be. So, okay, great. There's obviously things that needs to be done. But like, for example, admin is not one of my strong points. So I can tell you that right now. But then then our agreement is that, fine, we will give you where you shine and where you do your best. But then just give a little bit, make sure that is done.
Yeah,
you know?
and focus on what you're good at and what you're passionate about.
And I promise you, then you thrive as a business, because then you look at each individual and you say, what is your best character? And you feed people not because of how they look like or whatever, but based on their characters and what they can do. Then you talent, you just line it up, and then you run a very good company. And I think for us, we found that you know, like for example, our accountant, you can put in front of the camera. Not that she probably can't do if she's forced, but she always says, I don't want a camera. Don't put me in any limelight. I'm good doing the books. I'm good doing the numbers and stuff. And we said, okay, cool. We won't force you. But then if you feel like you want, it's a good day for you, you're more than welcome. and so we find each and everyone, like, what is it that drives you?
Yeah.
Because it's literally that thing that drives you. And I think what we find with women now is that it's this influx of force that they want to just stand and be themselves, but also it's that independence thing that has always been there, you know, that you don't want to get crushed when something goes wrong or happens within your family structure. You still want to carry on, and you still want to do things. So I think it's all of that drive that we want to be successful, so that we're good together, but then if anything happens, our family will still be okay. And then I think it's a combination of all of those, and that's why you see a lot of like a global thing about women, you know, sprouting into this being. It's purely because of that. Yeah.
No, and it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to support, and you know, a bit of wine also helps the confidence for me, especially. And you know, your story will be shared widely, and you know, many people who are watching this are also in the hospitality space. Waiters, aspiring sommeliers, individuals in the wine. There's winemakers that we know very well in Kenya. And it's just such a privilege to share some time with you, share in your beautiful wine. And I think we need to invite you to a conference in Kenya, you know, because Portugal, all these other ones, we'll get you up there. Our Zambian business and our Kenya businesses are female run and driven and led. So it's they're definitely the most successful by far. We're just so grateful to work with you and to help grow this collection in terms of awareness and your story and your example. So cheers to you.
No,
Praisy.
thank you.
And thank you so much for making the time.
No, thank you. I think we were very excited when Anthony, who's our sales marketing from the Bosman Adama side, when he says, Alistair and his friends wants to have you on board. I'm like, you know what? For me, anything that can take us to Africa, I'm for it. Because it's like when they say charity begins at home. You can't expect the rest of the world to embrace and welcome you when you haven't covered your footprint where you come from. And South Africa is part of Africa, and I said, you know, in 2 years' time, I'm planning a trip to Africa, personal. There's one specific continent, Rwanda.
I'm going there in 2 weeks.
Please. I wish I could go. But it's a personal thing, and purely because there's something that I've read, and I was like, I would love to go see that. And so I'm visiting Rwanda.
You can go personal, but I'll just need you for like a day or two. Business.
That's fine. That's fine. Miss Business with pleasure. Why not?
Awesome. No, that's great. And you know, the continent is actually such a leader in all things community driven. Empowering women. You know, so your wine. On the way, you can also fly via Victoria Falls because we're doing a woman. The Vic Falls Hotel is actually leading this. The GM there, Farai and Temba, women and wine list. How cool is that? You know?
It's probably one of the first things that that has been done. That you actually have like a wine list.
Yeah, just inspired. With female winemakers.
and I hope that people will find it. What do you call it? They'll find it and they'll embrace it.
Yeah.
And they'll support it as well, because I think it's not easy. I don't want to lie to you. It's not easy. And it's just that if there's someone who believes in you, and it just makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
All the effort that you put in, I can sit here and tell you like literally what I do, but to actually do it, it's not an easy thing. And without the support of my family, and the team that I have, I probably will not have a brand.
And you are making it easier for the next generation. So cheers to you, Praisy.
Hopefully.
No, definitely. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.